I'm braced.
What's up, guys? Today we are putting in a $270 motor and 100% sending it on a budget. So here we go. So for the doubters, here is the receipt. You can see $274.80 is the grand total. And we have an engine package, fuel injected. And that's including the cost of the core, might I add. It actually, technically speaking, cost me $169. So here's what we are looking at. This is probably the cheapest motor ever you could put into a ctsv. Now, some people are going to ask if this is a Borla, but this is some straight redneck shit right here. Just sludge everywhere. Hell yeah. This is the Sludge Panda. I already kind of got a little start putting in the motor, and I should have recorded a lot of this, but I didn't. I just don't have that much time to do YouTube. But if you do watch this kind of stuff and like it, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Maybe I'll put some more time into it. But in any event, this is the 5.3 you saw earlier, and I have an old balancer just laying around. Yes, it's a stock one, but this is a budget build. On top here, I have the LS1 intake manifold. I effectively picked this up with injectors for 150 bucks, including the rail. And the story behind that is I bought an LS6 manifold for 300 with the injectors and rail, took the injectors and the rail, swapped it over to my buddy's LS1 intake, and then sold it to him for 150. So he got an LS6 intake for 150. I got this one for 150, so it's a win-win. Still got the stock valve covers to the truck. I do have leftover ctsv manifolds just laying around. This throttle body is the original one to the LS6. I got this with the car. So things are progressing nicely here. It's a little bit unusual because this particular car is an LS6, and as you can see, this is all foreign to me. I don't know what the hell this thing is. And my LS2 doesn't have that, so that really threw me off. But, you know, this is the Sludge Panda here. Just bone stock, 220,000 mile, 5.3 LM7. And as you can see, the actual car has been hit. Notice how the bumper ends right here and how this whole front bar is pushed in. See, if you look at the core support here, look, totally bent in, but everything else is fairly straight. So I'm gonna bring it to a body shop once I get this motor running. The idea is to get this running on only exhaust manifolds and just the bare minimum. Not even gonna I'll maybe throw a water pump on it, but no rad, no nothing. Just put a little bit of water in the block and call it good. And just connect the minimum amount of sensors to get this thing running, to make sure that my engine harness is good and that the motor's good before I buy extra stuff like headlights, fog lights. I do have another bumper cover for it, but that's the idea, is just to do the bare minimum to get this motor running. Let me show you more of what we got going on. Alright guys, so the Sludge Panda is 100% lathered up with the finest quality Walmart oil. And what I'm going to go ahead and do now is probably just check the oil level real quick with our new dipstick and turn the motor over just a bunch. That way I can get the oil pump primed and everything kind of circulated real well. Rocker arms, push rods, you know, get the oil flowing everywhere, because this motor probably hasn't been started in, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months at least. So it's a good thing to do. And hopefully it turns over easy because I don't have any spark plugs in there right now. It should. Oh. Not the noise I want to hear, it just sounds like scraping on the piston wall. Ooh. What the? I'll rotate it the other way, I suppose. Ooh, that doesn't feel good at all. All right, so slight scare, but I think we're okay. I got the motor to turn all right. What I went ahead and did is I PB blasted inside each valve. Not inside each valve, but on top of each intake valve, that is. And I assume one of them was maybe a little stuck. And I went ahead and scoped the cylinders using this thing just to make sure there was like no bolts or anything in the way. So here's a couple things that are really sketchy about this particular car. Mostly the wiring harness. That is a butt connector there. Here is the main PCM connections. This one looks fine, but if we go into this one, you can see it has random writing on it. And at the end there, there's a butt connector, so that's kind of sketch. And then you have this random wire that is like just going up here. Presumably it's this one, I don't know. But a little sketchy. And I had the luxury of whatever wire this is down here, this little nub. Don't know what that is, but I no longer have. There's like one other thing that's snipped on the wiring harness. Otherwise, it's pretty much complete. And this is a little sketchy too. Check this out. So that's presumably my map connector, just spliced on. Don't know why, but it's spliced on. So I'm guessing I'm going to have a few codes when I try to start this up, and may or may not have some electrical issues. And over to the parts collection. I got the compressor with the car. $60 eBay / China water pump. Got this with the car as well. This is the power steering pulley. Had to buy the bracket new. Same for the alternator. Well, sorry, that's the alternator bracket. That's the power steering bracket. New reservoir because the ear, I better put that away actually because that's probably going to break. One of those broke on here, which is super common. And there's the old truck intake, which I really can't use much off of anyhow. I did end up swapping the oil pan. There's the old windage tray off the bottom of the motor. That's the only reason I opened up the motor, is to get this new oil pan on. And let me show you kind of what's going on with that. So if you look at this, you'll notice several problems. First of all, look at the bell housing of where it attaches to the motor. You see those two ears? Yeah, that should line up. So this is actually the Hummer 5.3 oil pan. And everything else lines up. Like that hole is good. And the bell housing is otherwise happy. Here's the other problem. This is obviously a flex plate. For just starting the motor and all intents and purposes, it will work. So, you know, I'm not going to start it with a transmission or anything. So here's another angle of the H3 pan. You can see it pretty much clears. The motor is tilted a little bit back since there's no trans right now. But everything clears on the pan. You can see the clearance there. So I'm pretty happy with this. I did some measuring before I bought it, and it's definitely going to work. So as you can barely see, that is the collector off the exhaust manifold, the stock one for ctsv. Now if I run it, you'll see that the motor mount is right here. So that's going to melt if I start it for more than a couple of seconds. And this is also my starter wire here, this thing. So again, if I have hot gases coming out of this exhaust manifold right here, it's going to melt that. And in addition, here is the fuel lines that go all the way back to the gas tank. Now, all of that stuff I do not want to get hot. So that is the whole reason for installing this piece of junk pipe. So what I'm going to end up doing through the magic of editing is I am going to go ahead and apply some copper RTV around here. It's kind of overkill just to start it for 30 seconds, but a good precaution, I guess. All right, globage has been applied. Okay, we are looking at the final product. Here's the gasket on top right here. And you can see everything's pretty flush after grinding it down. You know, this is good enough to start the car just once. And let me go ahead and bolt it up to this thing. Guys, it was another day. Progress kind of took a little bit of a halt. I mostly didn't have the intake manifold bolts. Here's the kind of predicament I was in. I just charged this thing too, so my GoPro's about to die. I didn't have these bolts. I did have these. These are the truck style intake manifold bolts. And as you can tell, or as you cannot tell because it's so fucking dark. Alright guys, it's that time. This is either the make it or break it point. I'm super nervous. There's a good chance it might not start. If it does start, I'll be super, super happy. You know, this is the moment to where we decide, is it worth it? Like, if it doesn't work or it's something really complicated, it's time to part this thing out. But if it works, I'll be super ecstatic, and I'm just super nervous right now. Alright, just wrote a new tune for a 5.3 in the Sludge Panda. Alright guys, so engine runs great, especially after I wrote the proper tune for it. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is throw a transmission in this thing next, and I might record a video on it, might not, but that's really the only other task left is clutch, transmission, small drivability stuff, throwing some headlights. So that's real easy stuff. I don't know if it's worth making a video on. But some really exciting news is I want to put a 200 shot on this thing and just go full send. Don't care if the motor ventilates. I'll do that if we can somehow get enough likes or subscribes or whatever it takes to actually earn $260 worth of monetization, ad profit, whatever it is, to account for that new motor. So if we can do that, 200 shot on this thing right here, stock 5.3, and stock diff on drag radials, skinnies, and hopefully embarrass some people at the drag strip. I mean, most likely I'll end up probably just embarrassing myself. But it's all in the name of fun anyways, so that's what this whole project's about. It'll be a fun car. If it blows up the motor, it's not a big deal. I'm not really going to like thrash on the body or anything. It's in pretty good shape. But, you know, just stay tuned, and next time you'll hopefully see this thing at the drag strip or me doing something fun with it. So, see you later.